fun එක next level කරන dialogue fan blaster.
Tonight, on First at 9 this Monday the 30th of December 2024. Carter departs. 39th US President Jimmy Carter passes on at 100 years of age. 9th of January declared a day of mourning in the United States. Freedom of the press. Government will not censor the media, vows the mass media minister. Resuming development. Sri Lanka calls proposals for a feasibility study to enhance the Jaffna International Airport. Deadline for bids for the BIA development project extended. Change of guard. Major General Lasantha Rodrigo appointed as the 25th Commander of the Sri Lanka Army. Rear Admiral Kanchana Banagoda appointed as the 26th Commander of the Sri Lanka Navy.
Chilo Dairy, Sri Lankauma Kiren Perata. ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසින් ලබාගත හැක.
කට්ට පරිස්සම් කරගත්තොත් අපි පරිස්සම්.
Asian Paints Causeway Aquasave වැස්සත් මට්ටුවෙන් ගෙදරත් තිස්නේ.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to Sri Lanka's premier primetime English news bulletin, Derana First at 9. I'm Tarindu Mahendra, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and from around the world. In your top story tonight, 39th President of the United States, Jimmy Carter, passed away at 100 years of age. Carter, who was a Nobel Peace Laureate, was remembered for his humanitarian efforts and pursuit of world peace both during and after his time in the White House. At 100 years of age, Carter is the US President to have lived the longest. Earl Carter Jr. was born in Plains, Georgia on October 1st, 1924 as the oldest child of Bessie Lillian Gordy, a nurse, and James L. Carter Sr., a peanut farmer. Carter, who served as a lieutenant in the US Navy during the Second World War, revived his family's peanut growing business after leaving service. He began his political career in 1962 and was elected to the Georgia State Senate in 1963 and as the governor of Georgia in 1970. Subsequently, he contested the 1976 US presidential election as the Democratic candidate and was elected the 39th President of the United States, defeating the then incumbent Gerald Ford. One of the highlights of his tenure in the White House was his successful intervention in ending the Israel-Egypt war, which concluded with the signing of the Camp David Accords. However, Carter's popularity suffered due to the economic recession and 52 American diplomats and citizens being held hostage at the embassy in Tehran by Iranian students during the Iranian Revolution in 1979. In the 1980 presidential election, Carter suffered a landslide defeat at the hands of Republican challenger Ronald Reagan. After losing the re-election, Carter told the White House press corps that he intends to emulate the retirement of Harry S. Truman and not use his subsequent public life to enrich himself. He dedicated his life after retirement to the pursuit of world peace, and in 2002 his efforts were recognized with the Nobel Peace Prize, at the time making him the third US president to be awarded the honor after Theodore Roosevelt and Woodrow Wilson. Notably, Carter was present at the inauguration of every US president to follow him except that of President Joe Biden, which he missed due to the COVID pandemic. A recording of Jimmy Carter's voice is contained within NASA's Voyager 1, the farthest human-made object from Earth. Carter was diagnosed with cancer in 2015, but he battled the disease for nearly a decade before passing on late yesterday at his home in Plains, Georgia at 100 years of age.
Today, America and the world, in my view, lost a remarkable leader. He was a statesman and humanitarian. And Jill and I lost a dear friend. I've been hanging out with Jimmy Carter for over 50 years, it dawned on me. Jimmy Carter lived a life measured not by words, but by his deeds. You know, he was like my dad. Today's world, some look at Jimmy Carter and see a man of a bygone era with honesty and character, faith and humility. It mattered. But I don't believe it's a bygone era. I see a man not only of our times, but for all times.
President Joe Biden has directed that the 9th of January next year will be a national day of mourning throughout the United States in memory of the late former US President Jimmy Carter. Meanwhile, Sri Lankan President Anura Dissanayake also extended condolences to Jimmy Carter's family. President Dissanayake highlighted that Carter's life was marked by an unwavering commitment to peace, human rights and humanitarian affairs, and added his hope that Carter's legacy lives on as a beacon of hope to build a better world for all.
Union Assurance.
Welcome to Cinnamon Life, South Asia's biggest entertainment hub, where awe awaits.
චන්දුරුසුනේ කාගෙන් මන අපේ සිංහ TV සඳහා සුපිරි ඩීල්.
Sadaharita Plantations Limited, celebrating 22 years of your trust.
Crunchy goodness for hunger on the go.
Minister of Health and Mass Media Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa says the new government has no intention of imposing restrictions on the media. During a meeting with the Sri Lanka Electronic Broadcasters Association, the minister further emphasised that the government will fulfil its responsibilities to the public and will guide the country's media appropriately going forward.
Minister of Health and Mass Media Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa recently held a meeting with a group of representatives from the Sri Lanka Electronic Broadcasters Association at the Ministry of Mass Media. The meeting was convened following a request from the SLEBA to present their views and proposals as well as to discuss several issues of concern. During the meeting, the minister was informed about the shortcomings of a draft bill as well as the existing legislation and several issues related to broadcasters in the country. The minister reiterated that both the media and the government must work together and assured that the government is committed to ensuring that the media is properly managed with no intention of imposing restrictions. The minister also acknowledged that the Ministry of Mass Media has been operating inefficiently and stated that one of the primary objectives of the current government is to restore the ministry to its proper functioning state. In response to allegations regarding the newly appointed ministers not being available to the media, the minister emphasized that cabinet and deputy ministers should work quietly and diligently, fulfilling their responsibilities to lay a strong foundation for the government in a way that benefits the people. The SLEBA presented several new proposals and ideas to the minister and also requested his support in creating an environment where media freedom is protected, allowing media to operate freely and independently. Additionally, the minister was briefed on the current obstacles to media freedom as well as measures taken to protect the security and independence of media institutions.
Major General Lasantha Rodrigo was appointed as the 25th Commander of the Sri Lanka Army, while Rear Admiral Kanchana Banagoda was named the 26th Commander of the Sri Lanka Navy. The relevant appointments were made at the Presidential Secretariat today. Meanwhile, General Shavendra Silva, who rendered a tremendous service to Sri Lanka for over 4 decades, is set to retire from his position as Chief of Defence Staff as well as from active service in the Sri Lanka Army with effect from the 1st of January.
Major General Lasantha Rodrigo was appointed as the 25th Commander of the Sri Lanka Army today. Major General Rodrigo received his letter of appointment at the Presidential Secretariat from Secretary to the President Dr. Nandika Sanath Kumarnayaka. Major General Lasantha Rodrigo previously served as the Deputy Chief of Staff of the Sri Lanka Army. The current commander of the Sri Lanka Army, General Vikum Dienage, is set to retire from his position tomorrow. In the meantime, Rear Admiral Kanchana Banagoda was appointed the 26th Commander of the Sri Lanka Navy. His letter of appointment too was handed over by the Secretary to the President Dr. Nandika Sanath Kumarnayaka at the Presidential Secretariat. Rear Admiral Kanchana Banagoda served as the Chief of Staff of Sri Lanka Navy since August 2024. He also served as the Commanding Officer of Fast Attack Craft as well as other ships and establishments in the Sri Lanka Navy. Further, the current commander of the Navy, Vice Admiral Priyantha Perera, who is set to retire from his post tomorrow, was promoted to the post of Admiral by President Anura Disanayake today. Meanwhile, General Shavendra Silva is slated to retire from his position as the Chief of Defence Staff as well as from active service in the Sri Lanka Army with effect from the 1st of January. General Shavendra Silva previously served as the 23rd Commander of the Sri Lanka Army prior to taking up the post of the Chief of Defence Staff. General Silva rendered a significant service during the humanitarian operation against terrorism as the commander of the 58th Division and later when Sri Lanka was battling the COVID-19 pandemic. He has served under 4 presidents and is the most decorated officer of the Sri Lanka Army. General Shavendra Silva engaged in an inspection of the Navy headquarters ahead of his retirement after 41 years of service.
Fast track your career from O-levels with eSoft.
ඩයිබටසෝල් සීනිවලින් පරිස්සම් වන ඔබට අමතක නොවන පෝෂණය.
ප්‍රයිම් ගෲප් ලංකාවේ ප්‍රථම වතාවට හඳුන්වා දෙන ලෑන්ඩ් ලීසින් ලේසියෙන් මීටමක්.
Single 1111 up to 60% off from the 11th November to the 17th of November.
Kalani wire කිසි ගින්නක් නෑ.
කිසි ගින්නක් නෑ. Kalani Fire Shield Wire.
Apico Met Real සමය සැපට නිදියන්න Apico Springs Foam Mattress මාදිලි රසකින්.
Crunchy goodness for hunger on the go.
The President's Fund is to be relocated to a new premises from the 1st of January next year. The President's Fund is currently located on the 3rd floor of the Lake House building on Dr. Vijayawardena Mawatha, Colombo 10. The President's office said the new office will be established on the ground floor of the Standard Chartered building situated in Colombo 10 opposite the President's house on Janadipati Mawatha. The President's office added that members of the public seeking services from the President's Fund will be able to visit the new office from the 1st of January onwards. Meanwhile, government is slated to launch the Clean Sri Lanka initiative on the 1st of January next year. The President's office stated that a presidential task force has been established to oversee the implementation of the initiative. The task force comprises 18 members, including Secretary to the President Dr. Nandika Sanatkumar Nayaka, the Acting Inspector General of Police and the commanders of the Tri-Forces. The Presidential Task Force is vested with the responsibility of planning, guiding, executing, monitoring progress and ensuring the completion of the Clean Sri Lanka program within the specified timeline. The Agrarian and Agricultural Insurance Board announced that compensation for crop damages caused by floods, droughts and wild elephant attacks during this year's Yala season will be fully disbursed by early next month. The Agrarian Insurance Board stated that as of today, compensation totaling to nearly 80 million rupees has been disbursed to 80% of affected farmers.
Heavy floods and other natural disasters prompted by incessant rains severely affected cultivations during the Yala season this year. Issuing a statement, the Agricultural and Agrarian Insurance Board announced that compensation for crop damage caused by floods, droughts and wild elephant attacks during the 2024 Yala season will be fully disbursed by the 5th of January next year. The statement read that compensation totaling nearly 80 million rupees has been disbursed to 80% of affected farmers as of today. The Agricultural and Agrarian Insurance Board stated that the remaining payments will be directly credited to the bank accounts of the farmers. Additionally, steps have been taken to compensate farmers for crop damage incurred during the 2024-2025 Maha season, with payments expected to commence in early February. Meanwhile, a farmer residing in the Pamado area in Mahavilachia launched a protest alleging that the fertilizer subsidies pledged by the government have yet to be disbursed.
With that, let's take a look at the latest political developments of the day.
ආරක්ෂාව පිළිබඳව මොකද? නෑ මට ආරක්ෂාව පිළිබඳව කිසිම අඩුපාඩුවක් නෑ. ඔබතුමා හිටපු කණ්ඩායම අඩු කරලාද ඉන්නේ නැත්නම්? ඔව් අඩු කරලා තියෙනවා. නමුත් ඒ ඉන්න කණ්ඩායම හොඳට ප්‍රමාණවත්. සහල් ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා දැන්. කොතනද ගැටලුව තියෙන්නේ ඔබතුමා දන්න විදිහට? වෙළඳපොළ නිදහස් වෙන්න ඕනේ. එතකොට පෞද්ගලික වෙලින්දන් අතරේම තරඟකාරීත්වය තියෙනවා.
දැන් අපිට සාධාරණ සැකයක් ඇති වෙලා තියෙනවා මේ සහල් මාෆියාවට උදව් කරන්නේ ආණ්ඩුවද කියලා. සතොසේ ටෙන්ඩරේ වැරදියට දාලා අන්තිමට සහල් ටික ආනයනය කරන්න උනේත් පෞද්ගලික අංශයෙන්.
මේ රජය ආවට ගියාට වැඩ කටයුතු කරන්න සූදානම් නැහැ. අපිට කරන්න වැඩ කටයුතු ගොඩාක් තිබෙනවා. බොහෝ අවිධිමත් වැඩ වලින් තමයි ඇත්තටම රට මේ තත්ත්වයටපත් වෙලා තිබෙන්නේ. ඒ නිසා දේශපාලන අධිකාරියත් රාජ්‍ය නිලධාරීන් කියන අපි දෙගොල්ලම එක අරමුණක් වෙනුවෙන් කැපවීමක් සහිතව වැඩ කළ යුතු වෙනවා. ඉතින් දැන් රට වෙනුවෙන් ඒ සුබවාදී බලාපොරොත්තු තබා ගන්න පුළුවන්. ඔවුන් එක්ක අපි මේ රටට හොඳ අනාගතයක් උදා කරන්න අපේ සම්පූර්ණ ශක්තිය දොනවා.
රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ ජනාධිපතිතුමා දිගින් දිගටම කිව්වේ පළපුරුද්ද වැදගත් කියලා. පළපුරුදු තිබෙන අය පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට යා යුතුයි කියලා. ඒ උපහාසයට ලක් කරමින් ඒක හොර ව්‍යාපාරයක් බවට පත් කරමින් කරපු ක්‍රියාදාමය නිසා ශ්‍රී ලාංකික මහ ජනතාව බරපතල ඛේදවාචකයකට මුහුණ දෙමින් සිටිනවා.
In your weather update, the Department of Meteorology forecasts showery weather conditions in the northern, north central, eastern and Uva provinces to enhance to some extent from today and to continue for the next few days. Showers or thunder showers are expected at times in the northern, north central, eastern and Uva provinces and in the Matale district tomorrow. Meanwhile, fairly heavy showers exceeding 75 millimeters are likely at some places in the eastern and Uva provinces and in the Matale and Polonnaruwa districts. In the meantime, showers exceeding 50 millimeters are expected to occur in some places over the western, Sabaragamuwa and southern provinces tomorrow. The weather forecast further notes that fairly strong winds of 30 to 35 kilometers per hour can be expected at times over the northern, eastern and north central provinces. The Met Department urges the general public to take precautions to minimize damages caused by temporary localized strong winds and lightning. Kurunegala district parliamentarian of the National People's Power, Vijay Siri Basnaika, faced disapproval from the employees of a government factory in Bingiri today during a visit of the factory. With that, here's a look at more local news across the island in brief.
Kurunegala district parliamentarian of the National People's Power, Vijay Siribasnayaka, together with the NPP's chief organiser of the Shillong electorate, Ajit Gihan Fernando, visited a garment factory in Bingiria today. A tense situation arose between the factory employees and the NPP MP when he attempted to make changes to the existing transportation facilities of the employees of the factory. Meanwhile, 5 persons were injured and hospitalized after a small pickup truck veered off the road and toppled in the Muskelia Brownlow estate on the Muskelia Nallatania main road yesterday. A total of 7 people were travelling in the vehicle at the time of the accident. Police stated that the driver had fallen asleep at the wheel and that the vehicle was severely damaged as a result of the accident. In other local news, Sri Lanka police announced that a special traffic plan will be implemented in Colombo for the New Year's Eve, as a large number of people and vehicles are expected to arrive at Golface Green tomorrow to celebrate the dawn of 2025. Accordingly, the special traffic plan will be implemented to reduce the severe traffic congestion expected in Colombo city, including in areas such as Peta, Colombo Fort, Compania Vidya, Maradana, Kolpeti, Bambalapitiya and Cinnamon Garden. Sri Lanka police further said that vehicles will not be allowed to be parked in the parking areas located alongside Gaul Road and that all vehicles will be directed to other parking areas and private parking lots.
Welcome back. The Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Aviation is seeking proposals for a feasibility study to enhance the Jaffna International Airport and invites qualified airport consultancy firms or joint ventures to submit bids. Additionally, the deadline for bids for the Bandaranaike International Airport Development Project has been extended, with work set to resume under new terms, funded in part by the Japan International Cooperation Agency. The Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Aviation invites proposals for a feasibility study on the augmentation of Jaffna International Airport at Palali from reputable airport consultancy firms or joint ventures. Firms must have completed at least one feasibility study for an international airport development project within the past 10 years, with development either completed or in progress. Firms based in the countries adjacent to the Colombo Flight Information Region are not eligible so as to avoid conflicts of interest. The request for proposal document is available for purchase from the Supply Chain Management Division of the Airport and Aviation Services at Bandaranaike International Airport between 9 am and 3 pm on working days up to January 28, 2025, or can be downloaded from the official Airport and Aviation Services website for a fee of $100. The deadline for bid submissions is 2 pm on January 29, 2025. A pre-proposal conference will be held at 10 am on January 8 at the Terminal Building in Jaffna International Airport, Palali. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Aviation also extended the deadline for the bids for the Bandaranaike International Airport Development Project Phase 2, Stage 2, covering the passenger terminal building and associated works, including the elevated roadway, utilities and systems until the 18th of March 2025. The construction period is 30 months. The original contract for the project, which began in December 2020 with a completion date of December 2023, was terminated in December 2022 due to economic conditions. At the time of termination, the project had only 6% progress, with materials and equipment already procured. The new contractor is expected to complete the remaining work using materials from the previous contractor. Government has secured a loan from the Japan International Cooperation Agency to fund part of the project. Additional funding from JICA's official development assistance loans is under consideration. Bidding will follow the guidelines for procurements under Japanese ODA loans open to eligible source countries as defined in the bidding documents. Meanwhile, Hambantota International Port is set to bolster its container operations with the introduction of advanced crane technology in early February 2025. The move is part of a larger strategy by the Hambantota International Port Group to expand its market reach and position Sri Lanka as a key player in global maritime trade.
The Chief Executive Officer of the Hambantota International Port Group emphasized that the port is not only focused on increasing container volumes but also on exploring untapped markets to diversify its operations. The port's strategic initiatives include both seaside and landside strategies designed to enhance efficiency and attract international business. The seaside strategy focuses on entering new markets such as relay cargo and transshipment, especially from the BIMSTEC countries. Currently, over 70% of containerized cargo from BIMSTEC nations bypasses Sri Lanka's ports, presenting a significant growth opportunity for HIPG. The port aims to capture a substantial portion of this market through targeted marketing and strategic investments. On the land side, HIPG is expanding its industrial zone to attract investors with the recent signing of a significant agreement for a sponge mattress factory aimed at export markets in the USA, Europe and Canada. This marks the first business agreement since HIP launched container operations. The port anticipates more agreements in 2025. The group said it aims to handle 10 million 20-foot equivalent units between 2025 and 2026.
The Colombo Bourse closed in green today as a result of price gains in counters such as Hatton National Bank, National Development Bank and Sampath Bank, with turnover reaching this year's second highest level of 10.2 billion rupees. The old share price index climbed 1.88%, settling at 15,827.39 points. Meanwhile, the S&P Sri Lanka 20 climbed 3.14%, ending at 4,813.38 points. High net worth and institutional investor participation was noted in Commercial Bank, Hatton National Bank and John Keel's holdings. The banking sector was the top contributor to turnover, followed by the capital goods sector. Foreign investors closed as net sellers, offloading shares worth 314.7 million rupees. And with that, here's a look at the rupee exchange rate for the day. And up next is Kavya Senadira from Capital Alliance with a few thoughts to round off our Markets in View segment for the week.
Last week, the domestic equity market experienced a significant rise. The ASPI increased notably by 4.89% from 14,810.7 to 15,535.6, while the S&P SL20 also increased by 5.5% to close at 4,666.6. The increase stemmed from positive sentiments surrounding the market outlook. However, the market turnover decreased by 14% to 30.7 billion rupees from 35.7 billion rupees. The Treasury bill auction for LKR 255 billion saw only LKR 120 billion accepted, with the 3-month and 6-month bill yields both decreased by 4 basis points to 8.62% and 8.77%, while the 12-month bill yield decreased to 8.96% by 6 basis points.
And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of First at 9. Thank you for joining and have a good night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit adaderana.lk.